one for e-recommendation. So by end of the year, all of recommendation from the ministry can be operate from each companies. So there will be no need for companies who would like to get recommendations. There is no need to come to the office of Ministry of Industry, but they can do it through a computer or through a laptop. But even we try to do it through PDA if possible. But of course we see which recommendation that can be monitored as well as to be evaluated. Otherwise, with the digitalization of recommendations, there are also side effects. For instance, in the textile, because there is no control from the ministry. A company who used to import, quote unquote, with the capacity of 70 tons, suddenly they can import 800%. So it can create other opportunities of importation of many materials that, quote unquote, is already produced domestically. So I think we will reverse some of this initiative because of we need to also to create a good environment for the business people and to maintain that the material balance is really balanced, not oversupply for some of the other community. I think I just would like to bring this issue for our discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Bapak Menteri, our Minister Airlangga. I think it's what the Minister has elaborated shows a well thought through policy perspective for the future in terms of our industrial policy facing this fourth revolution, industrial revolution. Before I give to the audience, I have two questions maybe for a conversation we can develop. And that is number one, the principal partner of this event today is the University of Gadjah Mada, which I know you're on the board of trustees and an alumni. So related to that, in terms of this shift in technology, how do you see the human capital perspective? Yeah, this disruption, you were elaborating the policy perspective on the supply chain, the value chain, and how it works with the demand sector. But then how do you see the Indonesian human capital perspective? And is our education system ready for this disruption, if you might say?
First of all, I think on the human development side, I think we have to see or we have to make a change on the way we develop the human resource. I think with the change of the digital economics, we have to make our people or our technicians or our job market to create a training for all the existing players of the economics. Digitalizations of the economics, it can be changed what we are doing today because of if the education doesn't really prepare for this, we are worried that most or the only people who are ready for changes is only we call it the millennium generations, the younger generations. The younger generations are more quote unquote digital savvy than the older generations. And if we don't really push the training center or retraining for the more senior employees or professionals, then we will be surprised with a lot of changes in the market. And even the regulatory is lag behind than the one that is pushing for the new economics. For instance, if we talk about the banking and finance, The digital economy is already creating a banking which is unregulated by the bank. Our tax system is not ready for the digital transaction. The export and import market is different now. It's not export and import via container anymore, especially for the consumer product. They are export and import via post. Then how do we calculate for the import duties? How do we calculate for the VATs? And it creates many changes in the way people buying things. How about the mom and pop shops? Mom and pop shops, usually the government is protecting from the big chain wholesaler or modern mini market. But now the mom and pop shops also get another challenge from the e-commerce market. So the mom and pop shops, if we call it a small and medium enterprise, is squeezed in between from the individual's e-commerce platform as well from the big wholesaler. In Indonesia, there are regulations that in the past, if you want to sell in Indonesia, you have to sell it through distribution companies or big warehouse only can sell it in 2,000 square meter. Now they reduce into 200 or 300 square meter or 20 by 20 meters. It's really a change that if not anticipated by the most of the small and medium enterprise, they can be pushed out from the game. They are not competitive. Simply, they are not competitive anymore. It's simple. We can see that some of household product nowadays they are no longer can be sold when we can be sold nationally. So I think it's again the challenge whether our young generation, our millennium generation can adopt to these changes. Otherwise, our competitor from other countries play much bigger role in Indonesia. And as of today, most of the e-commerce that is initiated in Indonesia is quote unquote already belong to the quote unquote foreign venture capitals, because our banking also having difficulties to finance venture capital. So when our banking cannot finance the venture capital, then the regional banking played the role, then this asset is already scooped by others as well. So at the end of the day, what we are worried that the Indonesian people at the end of the day become an employee of these changes of the digital world. So I think from the government perspective, we have to make regulations to anticipate this. But on the other side, for each individual, probably they have to learn. I mean, the continue learning is important. As I used to run for President Engineers Association, we encourage all the engineers to do a training through a seminar to upgrade themselves. So continue learning is the key for every individuals in today's open society and on this digital world. I think that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. So apparently there is a realignment also in the human capital skill set. And I think University Gadjah Mada was sharing with Six Cap Group the particular initiatives that in the university of this realignment into the human capital perspective of how Indonesia will be ready for the fourth industrial revolution. And now I allow for the next session of this dialogue to have the audience to share with us or have a comment or question to the minister of the challenges that the industrial sector will have or is having in facing this fourth industrial revolution. The floor is open. Can anyone? I'll open for the first session. Yeah. Any questions? Remarks, comments? So we are ready for the fourth industrial revolution now. Let me ask you another, to trigger the conversation, Minister Hartarto. In the various dialogues that we've had the last 2 days, there is an issue with intersectoral regulation. So we know what we're facing. We know the disruptions we're facing. And actually the entrepreneur society, the business persons, the private sector is ready for that disruption. But there are challenges in intersectoral regulations, for example, in health, in the health sector. How to manage the regulations that are not ready for this new technology innovation, as also in finance and banking that you were mentioning, fintech, for example. Now, how would your ministry be able to play a role in driving the innovation in regulations to be able to capture or to be able to face these challenges, and that allows Indonesia also to leapfrog? Because we need to move from, as you were mentioning, point 2, point 3, immediately to point 4 to be competitive in this new global economy. What is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we are not necessary to jumping into 4.0, Pak, since this is still on the early stage. And also, since the role of the government in Indonesia is to make the harmony, many of Indonesian people needs jobs. Industry 4.0 doesn't need any people. So that will be contradict. That's why our ministry is only make a segmentation of industry, which one will be follow the 4.0, not because of we would like to be in the 4.0, but the competition drive us to the 4.0. But others, like food and beverage, or making certain electronics product with labor intensive, that is still competitive because we are in Indonesia, we still push through that. The textile, the garment, the shoes. The shoes is currently the industry in the central Java is the second movement of the factories from east or from west to the center, because of the labor is more expensive on the west part of Java or the east part of Java. Then the labor intensive move to the central. I think this is the policy that the government is taking. So again, Industry 3.0 is still the key of competition, and the G20 leader also decide that Industry 3.0 is the challenge of today, a combination between labor intensive and robotics.